We are now ready to start our second episode of addiction recovery. I have today with me a guest, a close friend that I look up to, and I always have from day one in my recovery. He is someone to be admired by many. He helps so many. He is the owner of Renaissance Recovery. It's an outpatient program here in southern Utah, and he is they just celebrated their 4-year anniversary. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about step 2 in the recovery programs, and we'll go straight to it. With the LDS program, it talks about step 2 is come to believe that the power of God can restore you to complete spiritual health. And Taz, what is step 2 in the AA program?
Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
Okay, so in this step, we are trying to open ourselves up to a new way of thinking. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
For myself, I had no relationship with God for 20-something years, or very little relationship. It was more of a relationship of foxhole prayers and a religion that I just wanted things, and so when I wanted something, that's when I would pray or whatever. But this is where I finally started to experience my spirituality. How about you? You want to tell us a little about yourself, Taz?
Yeah,
please do.
First, thank you for inviting me on here. I'm honored. You're one of my heroes. You hope you know that. I tell you that.
You do.
Hope you feel it. And I don't want to take a lot of time on the story, but rather get into hope and step 2. I grew up in a great home. You know my parents well.
I do. They are my heroes.
And in a way, that's how we connected.
Right.
Is through them, and they were the coordinators of the 12-step program here in Washington County. I believe when you started,
they were the first ones I met. They were the leaders. Yes.
Yeah. So when you were telling your story about when you came to your first meeting, we listened. We watched that with my mom and dad, and my mom said, "I think we were there at that meeting," and they remember.
No doubt, your mom would remember. She was.
Yeah, she's sharp.
Awesome. Yeah.
And my dad too, but. So I grew up in a great home. I didn't have a great reason to experiment, and I think that's where really it started. It was more curiosity than any huge troubles or anything I was experiencing at the time. I was 12 years old, 12-year-old. I was looking back at myself and think about, wow, what was I thinking? And what was I doing at that point in time in my life? I didn't have a lot of good reasons to experiment, but I did, and it took off from there. I didn't party and at 12 years old, I wasn't drinking every day or anything like that, or using drugs every day, but I experimented throughout high school, and then once I got into college, that's when things really took off. The freedom and the more exposures to parties. I actually had a scholarship to play football at the University of Utah, and had worked my tail off to earn that, and I lost it. It was taken away from me, and the shame and the sorrow and the regret and the embarrassment and everything that brought with that. I kind of had a couple decisions to make at that point. One was to recognize I had a problem and to ask for some help, or try to cover up that pain and that embarrassment with more drugs and alcohol. And that's the choice that I made. I didn't have any other solutions. I didn't have hope. I didn't think there was a way out, and I wasn't ready for a solution at that time. And so a lot more pain and sorrow and for over the next few years. In 2002. And then in 2009, I was introduced to, my wife gave me an ultimatum and said, get help or we're done. and she's sick and tired of me being sick and tired, and I accepted the help. I didn't think that I was quite unmanageable enough, as you talked about in step 1 last week. But I knew I was powerless. I knew that I couldn't stop on my own, but didn't want to look at the reasons why I should stop. And so found Renaissance in 2009, and got out, stayed sober for about 9 months. I relapsed. Katie, my wife, Katie, had a boundary that I couldn't use in the home, and if I did, I was out. So I was asked to leave again, and another 10 months of pain and struggling and bouncing around from different places to places, and sober living homes, and manipulate my way into other places, and eventually manipulated my way back into the house, and went back into treatment in 2011, and it was a tough road. It was a rocky road, and I needed that pain. You know, I needed to go through what I did, because that brought me to my knees. And through being on my knees and asking, crying out in desperation, I did feel hope through that. I felt God's love in those moments. So that's kind of a Reader's Digest version, and I'm here today, and in St. George, 4 years. I can't believe we've been down here 4 years. It seems like it's been 4 months, and it's been a blessing, and we're very thankful.
That's awesome. How inspiring is that to bring hope? When I was thinking about who I would bring on for this show, and the title came to me of hope, it was definitely Taz that I was going to have, at least ask, and he said yes. So that was very good. So you realized that your life was unmanageable finally, even after many attempts.
Yeah. And
that's often how it goes. That's pretty cool that your wife stayed with you. It doesn't happen like that a lot of times. Like I said, I went through 2 divorces, and both relationships were pretty messy. But sounds like you guys got a really good thing. You got, what, 2 beautiful daughters?
3.
3. Whoa,
yeah,
man.
I know.
I need to catch up.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by beautiful women. It's a curse, but it's also a gift. No, it's not a curse. I'm joking, but
right.
They're amazing. They're a bright spot in my life today for sure.
That's awesome. I love to watch your family on Facebook and stuff. Let me ask you a question, Taz. I had a buddy this morning messenger me this. I have it quite often because I am so open about my story, but he messengered me on the Facebook Messenger, and it says, "What's up, brother? I'm writing to you because I'm lost. I have pain that is severe, and I'm getting addicted to pain medication. That isn't working very well no more. But if I don't take it, I'm in the worst pain, and I get sick as heck. But it's not heck. I need help, Heston. I've talked to both my sisters about it, but we don't know what I should do for sure. I don't have any insurance. Do you know of anything or any place that helps guys like me?" Taz, my question to you is, what would you tell a friend like this that's struggling? He don't have insurance. There's so many people out there that don't have insurance. I know I didn't for that was, but somehow by the grace of God, 25 years later, I found a program that worked for me, and I think that's where he needs to get, and I've advised him to do such steps. But what is your advice? What process would you tell them to take?
First of all, I'll tell him he's right where he needs to be.
I did.
Good. So the advice you gave him so far is spot on, and he's at step 1, right? Reaching out,
Sure.
and being honest with himself of where he's at. He doesn't sound like he wants to continue to live the way that he's been living. The gift of desperation is a spot, unfortunately, that a lot of people have to get to before they reach out. But that's a spot that's a blessing when looking back, because that's where it begins. That's where the road to recovery begins, is in that desperation spot. And so there's a lot of different resources out there. One of the things we want to pride ourselves in is not just we want to help people get to the right place.
Right.
And we might not be that right place.
Sure.
Right.
That's awesome.
eventually I went to treatment twice, but the last time I finally got clean and sober, I had the tools, I had professional help, and I just dove in head first into meetings, into helping others, sponsoring, I had sponsees and sponsors, and so there's places out there that can do a sliding scale, for payment. There's places out there that will help actually find a job, and through that can help pay for treatment. I know we do that a lot. We help people find jobs and then work out a payment plan if we need to.
Yeah.
And dealing with the pain, that part is a medical issue, and so we have doctors on staff that can help assist in those areas. But we want to make sure that people know that we're not doctors. We're not going to prescribe, but the doctors can. We have therapists.
Sure.
And dealing with the pain it's a common and it's real. Okay, pain is real. Physical pain is real, and people deal with it. There's a lot of people walking around that are in pain, physical pain, but aren't overprescribed. But Tylenol, Advil, ibuprofen works wonders.
Especially when you get in a little bit, every year you get older.
Mm-hmm. And I don't, I'm not in their shoes, and I don't know exactly how bad their pain is, and I can't speak to that. And I'm sure it's legit. I'm sure it's severe, and I'm sure it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Recovery is uncomfortable at times, and growth is uncomfortable. A lot of times I found out that opiates cured more than just physical pain. It also cured emotional pain, spiritual pain, and it was great for that.
Right.
Great way to avoid and numb out, and so it works for more than just physical pain. But it's the beginning. He's beginning of a great journey, and a tough one, but a rewarding one.
That's about exactly what I put him the same direction I gave him, and I'm going to be looking up programs for him in his area, and we'll get him straight, hopefully on his where you've seen and I've seen many people, not just like 5 people. We've seen many people succeed in recovery from addictions, and so whatever the addiction is, it might feel hopeless. But if you follow the steps, there's others out there that can show you there is absolutely hope. Correct?
Absolutely. And I'll put a plug in for USARA.
Okay. Yeah, please.
They've been around in Salt Lake for a while, but they just opened up a location here. They're a nonprofit. Okay. And they're a resource center, essentially is what they are. And they help family members. They help addicts. They help the community. Super excited that they're here in St. George.
Yeah,
super excited. So they're up by the post office, right across the street from the post office.
USARA? Okay.
Yep. I just wanted to put a plug in for them. They're great people, and super excited that they're here.
Yeah, that's the more resources, like you said, that can be. When I came into recovery, I didn't know of any programs. I had been screaming for help for years, and everyone knew I had a problem, and Heston would be the first to admit that his life was unmanageable. But Heston's number one question, which led to tomorrow I'm going to change, 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, it was, where do I get help? What do I do? Because you're caught up in a life where you're stuck in that one day, and you are not, you're going to change tomorrow. You have every intention, and you're going to do it every day until days turn into years and years turn into decades. And but so the more resources we have, and time is, with the government getting on board with the opiates, overprescribing and things like that, I think it's headed in the right direction, but they have so far to go.
Yeah.
To get there, Taz, let me ask you this. Is there, in your mind, a better type of person than an addict in recovery?
They're my favorite. they're my favorite people on the face of this earth. Yes, Matt, question, Heston, you're going to get me emotional
I can see you crying
on air. And
that's what I do.
I love people in recovery. I love what they stand for. I love their determination. They're charismatic.
Yeah.
They're funny. They're good at making friends.
How are they for the community? They're
great. The ones in recovery.
Yeah, exactly. It's a polar opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's, you know, we want to separate people from their actions versus the addiction.
Sure.
Right? Because when I was under the influence, I didn't make very good decisions.
Yeah.
And I wasn't great for the community. I wasn't great for myself. I wasn't great for my family. I wasn't great for my wife. I wasn't great for my neighbors. And so there's a way to make restitution, you know, later on down the road, and make amends and make things right. But you know, addicts, they're sick people trying to get well. Right. They're not bad people trying to be good.
I like that.
Right.
I always say they have good hearts. They just have messed up brains for the time being.
Right. Not a drinking problem, but a thinking problem.
Yeah, that goes with it too.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of sayings.
Yeah, right. One-liners. We just rattle off some one-liners for the next
one day at a
20
time.
minutes. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I love them. I love them. And that didn't happen until I was able to love myself.
Amen.
You know, and once I could love myself, then I could start loving other people. But they're special to me. That's
exactly everything that you say. And I think when I ask you questions, I almost know the answers. And so, but I think everyone needs to hear the answers, because it's amazing to see the transformation of it, and talk about hope. You know, when we used to go out to Purgatory Jail, the correctional facility, your mother used to go out there, and your father, for years. And I think we took their place 2 times after, but to visit the sisters. I think they maybe did the male side also, but to watch those girls, you know, at the bottom of their bottom, and to see, you know, you hear them one week, I lost my kids, I'll never get to see them again. And through the program and begging them to do the steps and promising them through practice and patience, sisters, you will get it. And now I see some of those girls that have full custody of their kids that never thought they'd see them again, and have 2 jobs and a house, and now they're getting married to really cool people. And so bring hope, you know. And another one, hope, that I kind of talked about my story last week, about my son, and it was just him and I for 2 years, you know, and his mom wasn't a big part of his life. But you know what? Where's my son right now? He's with his mom for 1 month, the whole month. It's like she has just worked her way up to getting better, and we've prayed all along for that. We always wish the best for our children. We just tell our kids that, you know, you have 2 moms, you have 2 dads, and it's really cool to see, you know, people that weren't that good of people making that good of choices, to now people being amazing people, making incredible choices and changing the world. You know, I see these people that are in recovery, they don't halfway do anything. If they're going to be good people, they are very, very good people.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. They don't do much halfway.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what I've noticed also.
Yeah.
So
the one thing about, I looked up hope, and in a feeling of trust. It says a feeling of trust, a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. And so, I'm not trying to take over the hosting job.
I love it. No, go, ask me. I love it.
Because you're the man, but
you're my team.
Where do you remember the first time you felt hope?
Yes, I do. It was actually in the very, very first recovery meeting. And you know what it was that made me find that hope is that I sat there very quiet. I had a blanket on because I had the shivers. I was so cold, and it was like 105 out, and I was freezing, but I had my blanket on. I was about 95 pounds. I've put on 40 pounds since then. Had holes in all my teeth. I got 4 of them fixed. I still need a bunch of them fixed, but I got hope in that meeting, and it was because there was about 7 to 10 other guys or people, women, sisters. It's not just a male disease, but there was, and some of them had 5 years clean and 2 years clean, and what they said was what I felt. I just didn't know other people felt that way. That's where I got hope. That's where I got hope, was in the rooms. The first room, the first meeting is where I got hope.
Yeah, amen.
You?
Similar experience. I stepped in, my first meeting was in 2002, 2001-ish. And then, you know, like I mentioned, didn't go into treatment until 2009 and didn't have much sobriety in between there, but I still felt hope. And one of the things where in meetings, but also part of that is because I was around people who had hope.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing that I'm a true believer in is that people don't recover in treatment. People recover in relationships.
I like that.
And as a treatment provider, someone might say, why would you? Well, it's the truth. That's why I'm saying it, because it's the truth. And if we can provide relationships, healthy relationships, get people around other people with hope, then that's just like the disease is, you know, look at it as a bacteria. And, you know, when I'm around other people that's using and drinking, it grows. The bacteria grows like a sick fungus.
Yeah.
But when I'm around other people that are in the solution,
yeah,
it's like the antibacterial soap that I wash my hands with and cleanses the disease and gives me the hope.
Got that armor.
Yeah, that armor. And so it's those relationships, and that's what really provided. I was lucky enough to get in with a group of guys that we just bonded, and we gave each other hope, and we fed off of each other. And today, those are some of my closest relationships. And we still have, there's probably eight guys that are sober today out of that group in 2009.
Wow.
That's and maybe not have stayed sober, but are sober today and have some time.
Sure.
And you know, we still keep in touch. And so that's one of the big things that gave me hope, is watching other people, being around other people as they work through the steps, and seeing their experience and their light come on, and see God influence them and touch their lives and change their lives. I can't think of much that is more hopeful. And so being around the solution is you can't not feel hope.
I told my buddy that, almost to that, but I said, there's strength in numbers, right? But you got to get to a meeting. But I didn't think of the relationship part. That's actually what it is relationships with other people that think kind of similar to what you do, because they have the same thinking, you know? How cool is that? That's relationships. I like that. Let me ask you a question. Taz, we're talking about hope for addicts, and we love to bring hope for addicts. What about parents? Where does the hope start for them? When did Andy and Mama Bear get their hope?
So I joke because I like to take credit for them getting into recovery, because without me, right, they wouldn't have needed to. Without the pain that I caused them, they wouldn't have stepped foot into
Never knew that they could work on themselves.
12-step meeting.
Yeah.
So I jokingly say I get the credit because I was such a bonehead and forced them and my wife too. But that's the same way. The same way that I found hope is the same way that they found hope. And so we talked about relationships. So they met other parents that were also had a son or daughter that were struggling, and were able to band together. We're able to share stories of hope, because family members are suffering as well, and they need a way to heal.
Right.
And there is a way.
Well, they needed a way to understand what their child is thinking.
Yeah.
You know, where are they getting this thinking? Because most people, it's a choice. They should choose to not do it.
Right.
You know, the choice didn't start at 12 years old or 14 years old. at that age, are we really held accountable for our choices? Do we really make the best choices? So when it starts that young, and it mostly does, most of the time, if people track down to when they started, it's usually at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah. And so being around other people, but another big way is without working the steps, it's difficult to feel the hope continuously long-term and gain long-term sobriety. So first it started out with being around other people, but then through working the program, step 2, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. There is a God and I'm not it.
Yeah, good point.
Right?
Yeah.
And then moving on to steps 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, then making amends in 8 and 9 and then continuing to take the inventory and then so there's steps along the way that continue to bring hope. Every time we work the steps, hope continues to come in. And then I go on, experience life. I remember my first time golfing sober.
Yeah, me too. Everything was a first.
Yeah.
Everything I did was a first for decades.
And when I had a good time,
that
brought hope. So I'm like, I can do this. Maybe I can live life and enjoy. That was a fear that I had, is I can't enjoy life. I can't enjoy the things I used to do while drinking and drugging. That it's going to be boring, right? It's going to be mundane. I can't believe people do this stuff and enjoy it.
Yeah, you can't have fun without it.
Right. And so I experienced and had the first, we went fishing this past weekend.
Yeah. Fish Lake.
Yeah. And had a great time.
Did you catch any fish?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Me?
That's what it's all about.
I didn't.
Okay.
But my dad and my daughter did. So rigorous honesty, right?
Humility.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I had joy and I was sober and I didn't have cravings. I didn't think about using and running off and hiding,
right?
And thinking of ways I can escape to, and pre-planning the trip of how much to bring so I can make it through the weekend. Of just that's the insanity, right?
It's the insanity.
Came to believe that power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. That's insane thinking.
It is.
And so those types of experiences, going to a jazz game, that's recovery and enjoying it, and recreating and having a good time. Yeah. And every time that happens, it brings hope.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. We're going to wrap it up. I just wanted to finish with saying thank you, Taz, for coming. I don't know if you remember, but the first time I ever met you, I remember. And what you said was profound. We were in a meeting and you said, who really wants to look at themselves really deep, or something to the effect of this? Who really wants to look at themselves? Look at, I'm a liar, I'm a cheat, I'm a thief. Who really wants to look that hard at themselves and analyze themselves? And the answer to that was someone who wants a change, someone who wants to change their life, someone who's willing to do the work. And I appreciated that. And it moved me forward in my recovery. And that's what has happened to each person that I've went to meetings and I've known for a while. Each of them have said something that hit me and has stayed with me and helped me grow, and that's part of that relationship. But once again, Taz, thank you for coming on, and we'll wrap it up. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week, or talk to you next week.